From Citizen TV, this is the Monday Report with Trevor Ombija.
Thank you for staying with Citizen TV, and you're just in time for the Monday Report live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center. That's where you can see the beautiful water fountain. It's the latest addition to the KICC. We're here to have an interesting discussion. Have you ever heard of PSSF? That is a Public Service Superannuation Fund. Wonder what that is? We will tell you. Do you also know that the CS for Treasury, Honorable John Mbadi, just published the PSSF Scheme Regulations 2025 just last week? So who does it affect? Who does it benefit? What is that? How much do you make? Who are the members of the PSSF? That conversation coming up on our town hall session live from the KICC. My guest tonight will be Honorable Wycliffe Wangamati. He's the chairperson PSSF. Agnes Mwenda, the vice chairperson PSSF, and also a member of the Union of Kenya Civil Servants, and Dr. Jonah Ayabe, who's the CEO PSSF. We'll explain to you what PSSF is all about, the regulations, the benefit, who the members are, how much they have, and what you need to know about the PSSF. But send in your questions at Trevor Ombija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. But first, our top stories tonight.
Boniface cannot talk. He cannot hear, as well, he cannot see us.
Clinging to hope. Doctors say the mask seller shot by police cannot survive without life support. Murder charge approved. Central OCS Samson Talam among 6 to face murder charges for the killing of Albert Ojwang. An illegal deduction. High Court judge questions shift deductions from gross salary as 44,000 employers default.
Hiyo risasi venye iligonga mfupa ati ilipasuka mara 3, wakatoa segments 2, sasa hiyo ni moja ilibaki.
Scarred by bullets. The agony of survivors of June 2024 protest and the grief of families that lost their children.
Thanks for tuning in. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Yula Nzale. Tonight we begin with a story of deep pain and desperation unfolding at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Boniface Mwangi Kariuki, a street vendor shot by a police officer, remains in critical condition in the intensive care unit. Doctors have told his family that Kariuki cannot survive without the life support machines. So far, he has undergone 2 surgeries to remove bullet fragments lodged in his head, and still, his family holds on to a fragile hope that he will pull through. As Ben Kiruina reports, police bosses have visited the family home in Murang'a, promising that justice will be served.
It has been 6 days of anguish and uncertainty since Boniface Mwangi Kariuki, a street vendor, was shot by a police officer, an incident that has left him in a critical condition in the intensive care unit at Kenyatta National Hospital. Doctors are doing all they can, but the news to his family has been heartbreaking. Boniface cannot survive without the support of machines, at least for now.
Boniface is still under critical condition. He's still under life support machine. To be sincere, he can't survive without it. So he has to survive under the machine. Everything is being done by that. So far, that is the response that we received from the doctors. And they told that we still have to cling on hope. That's what we are waiting for, the best.
Multiple surgeries have been performed to remove the bullet fragment lodged in his head, but his condition remains critically unchanged.
Boniface cannot talk, he cannot hear, as well, he cannot see us. So he's still critically. So it means that everything that is under Boniface, it's being monitored by the ventilations, the machine itself. Likely there might be another surgery, but it can't happen as we speak until he tries to respond.
His father, John Kariuki, has been making daily visits to the hospital, holding on to hope for signs of recovery, but so far, none have come.
Naambia kuna change, lakini mimi mwenyewe sijaona change. Sasa mimi nasangaa sana. Kuligana naambia kuna change, lakini madaktari wanatupea hope, wanatuambia mtoto atakuwa sawa. Mambo ya kukujaga hapa kila siku, kuna watoto wengine unaweza kuwa ukitafutia kitu ya kukula, unakuja hapa unakaa the holiday.
As the family continues to cling on to hope, police authorities have moved to reassure the family that justice will be served. Central Regional Police Commander Samuel Ndanyi, who visited the family home in Murang'a, delivered a message on behalf of Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja, pledging that the officer involved will be held accountable.
On behalf of the National Police Service, I want to express our deep regret over the tragic events that occurred during the recent demonstration in Nairobi last week, where your beloved son, Boniface Mwangi Kariuki, was shot. We are heartbroken by what happened, and we wish Kariuki quick recovery. As a family, may you find strength during this difficult time and accept our heartfelt sympathy. You are not alone.
With little to no signs of improvement from the intensive care unit, the family is holding on to hope, clinging to prayer as their only comfort in this critical hour. Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, Central Police Officer Commanding Station Samson Talam and 5 other suspects will face murder charges over the killing of Albert Ojwang at the Nairobi Central Police Station. This after the Director of Public Prosecution sanctioned the charges, which IPOA says is watertight. Here's Seth Olale with the details.
Central Police Station OCS Samson Talam and 5 other suspects accused of murdering teacher Albert Ojwang on the night of 7th and 8th June between 9:30 p.m. and 2 a.m. at the Central Police Station were arraigned moments after the Director of Public Prosecution approved murder charges against them.
Do you want me to take for you one? I don't have one. You don't have one.
According to the charge sheet presented at the Kibra Law Courts, those accused of murder include interdicted Central Police Station OCS Samson Kiprotich Talam and police officer James Mukwana and Peter Kimani. Others are the 3 remandees at the station on the night Ojwang was killed: John Ngege Gitau, Jean Amito Abuao, and Brian Moniki Njue. The 6 were charged with murdering Albert Omondi Ojwang, contrary to Section 203 of the Penal Code. The investigating agency, Independent Policing Oversight Authority, which forwarded the file to ODPP for review, says there is watertight evidence against the accused.
If we take a Shondi investigation to Director of Public Prosecution, you refer back again the file, fill this gap. But I think what we have been able to do, we have a watertight case to those we are taking to court.
However, the 6 accused persons failed to take plea before Lady Justice Diana Raquel Kavedza, after 2 of them stated that they lack legal representation.
Yes, perhaps maybe after.
The court directing the state to provide the suspects with lawyers before being arraigned on Tuesday.
Introduction, the state. I need you to look at that so that we will know what we are dealing with tomorrow. That can be a preliminary issue.
IPOA says it has also recovered CCTV footage captured at the Central Police Station on the night the murder happened. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
Now, a new report by the Independent Medical Legal Unit, that is IMLU, has laid bare a disturbing pattern of excessive use of force by police, not just during the Gen Z-led protest of 2024, but stretching back across multiple administrations. Titled Silenced but Unbowed, the report reveals what IMLU describes as a deeply entrenched culture of impunity within Kenya's security forces, one that continues to thrive due to a persistent lack of accountability both at the individual and institutional levels. Emily Chebet has the details.
The independent medical legal unit investigation, grounded in medical records, autopsies and eyewitness accounts, reveals a pattern that is as old as it is disturbing. The report corroborates earlier findings, confirming 63 deaths, 63 abductions, 26 missing persons, over 600 injuries, and widespread instances of torture and illegal detention.
The failure to address this and previous crises is rooted in the country's persistent lack of accountability, especially at the command level. While a few junior officers have been prosecuted in high-profile cases, such as the murder of the lawyer Willie Kimani, most violations go unpunished. The doctrine of command responsibility, though enshrined in Kenyan law by the International Crimes Act of 2011, remains largely underutilized.
According to the report, most of the victims of police brutality were men. 96% of the documented deaths are male, 4% are women. 88% of the arrests were male, while 12% were female. 87% of abductions are male, while 13% are female. This has been the trend in the past cases of brutality.
Assuming that there is escalation from peaceful protests to some level of violence or to violence, there are provisions on how the police should de-escalate the situation. Let us not confuse Gen Z's, the story or the narrative that Gen Z's provoke them.
Speaking at the launch of the report, President of the Law Society of Kenya, Faith Odhiambo, questioned the budget cuts, especially for human rights institutions.
Kenya National Commission for Human Rights is being strapped dry because their budget allocation is next to ensure they can only pay salaries and they cannot work to serve Kenyans. Similarly, the way IPOA is being frustrated, yet the institutions that I still hold are quite useless. Like the NCIC, they're getting a higher budget allocation, yet we do not see the work that they're doing.
The police officers often using face masks and operating in vehicles without number plates have been condemned. The report by IMLU stating that such methods are deliberate to evade identification and accountability. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
Policing Oversight Authority Chairperson Isaac Hassan has revealed that 20 people have been killed while in the custody of police authorities over the last 15 days only, with more cases going unreported. Hassan, who spoke at the commemoration of the Day of the Delayed Justice, has also regretted appearing together with the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, at a press conference following the death of teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang. Hassan says that he had already cautioned the IG that the narrative that Ojwang harmed himself was an insult to Kenyans' intelligence. Emmanuel To has more.
IPOA chairperson Isaac Hassan says police brutality has intensified, with more killings being reported almost on a daily basis. So much so that in just over 2 weeks, at least 20 Kenyans have died in the hands of police officers. Hassan adding that despite the law requiring officers commanding stations to report such incidents to IPOA, only 25% of the cases get reported, the balance being complaints from members of the public, community or out of public pressure. This meaning that 3 out of 4 cases are never reported.
Ojwang was killed on 8th of June and today is 23rd. Already we have got more than 20 reported deaths in police since then. When something is not in the media, public limelight, they go back to their default setting, which is to try and slow down.
On the now active case of the killing of Albert Ojwang, Isaac has revealed that on the night Ojwang breathed his last, the Inspector General of Police informed him. Hassan saying he doubted the explanation given, opting to visit Central Police Station to see for himself.
When I got the signal from the IG and I read the signal, it said he died because he repeatedly hit his head against the wall. That was the first signal. And I called him up and I told him, surely, you want to insult our intelligence now. This is not going to fly. I am going there to go to that cell.
The IPOA chairperson explaining the shocking details of the crime scene he saw within the police cells.
And I was so disturbed. It's because I had seen the blood in the walls, on the floor. I had never seen that kind of, scene. So it shocked me.
Hassan says he was on his way out until the IG invited him to the press conference, which he now regrets.
We should not have actually appeared with them because the optics, the way the public will see was that we are actually here with the killers. And for that, I think we owe the country an apology.
The day of delayed justice was instituted following the killing of lawyer Willie Kimani alongside taxi driver Joseph Mirori and client Josephat Mwendwa on the 23rd of June 2016. Retired Chief Justice David Maraga saying the police brutality menace is now a crisis.
I said we need a serious conversation on the justice system, particularly on the police brutality. It's getting out of hand. And something needs to be done.
At the same event, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and IPOA differed on the extent of resolving the killing of at least 60 persons during the 2024 Gen Z protests, with IPOA indicating it is still waiting on feedback on 21 files submitted to the DPP. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Let's talk about health matters now. The government has suffered yet another blow after High Court in Milimani observed that the mandatory 2.75% deduction from gross income for the Social Health Insurance Fund, that is SHIF, is illegal. This comes as thousands of employees are barred from accessing SHA services after 44,000 employers failed to remit their deductions to the authority. Emmanuel Toh has the details.
In the ruling by High Court Judge Chacha Mwita in a petition filed by 4 doctors on the legality of the Social Health Authority's Social Health Insurance Fund deductions, the judge raised serious concerns over the mandatory 2.75% deduction to the Social Health Insurance Fund, terming it potentially unconstitutional. In his ruling, the judge said, quote, "There is only one gross income. There can be no other gross income from which the person can again contribute 2.75% to the fund under SHIA." The judge adding that any subsequent or other statutory deductions based on the person's gross income after income tax is undoubtedly double taxation, charge or levy, because the same gross income will have been taxed more than once under the Income Tax Act and the regulations made under SHA as contribution to the fund. Mwita concluding by stating that by providing that a person contributes 2.75% of his or her gross income to the fund after paying income tax from the same gross income, the regulation introduces a negative element of taxation, which is double taxation, and would, as a result, make such a regulation unlawful. The court, however, declined to give directives on the matter until a similar issue is heard and determined. This comes as SHA sent a warning shot to employers, saying thousands of employees already registered to SHA are at the risk of failing to get medical attention after the employers failed to remit their monthly shift deductions.
So far, we are owed 21 billion shillings out there. We have patients in hospitals who are in those hospitals. They are aware that they are fully registered by the Social Health Authority by virtue of the fact that they are employed, but their employers have not yet remitted the money.
SHA adding that it was pursuing over 44,000 employers who are yet to comply with SHA requirements.
So far, we have 98,112 employers that are in the system, but in that portal, we only have 53,000 of those employers who are compliant. It means that we have around 44,000 employers who we must go after.
And so starting today for the next 6 weeks across the country, we will be coming door to door to each employer to ensure that you're compliant with your remittances to the Social Health Authority.
In a statement to newsrooms, Health CS Aden Duale has however clarified that the SHA contributions remain in force and that the fund continues to operate within the law. Over 22 million Kenyans have already been enrolled to SHA platform, with the government planning to ramp up the numbers in coming days. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Imagine living with a bullet lodged in your body, injecting yourself at least twice a day or swallowing 10 pills just to numb the pain. This is the harsh reality for some of the victims of police excesses during the anti-government protest of June and July 2024. They feel abandoned, left to bear the physical and emotional scars of one of Kenya's darkest chapters when young people took to the streets to stand up against what they saw as bad governance. In our continuing series, Wounds of June, Gatete Njoroge spoke to some of the survivors whose lives have never been the same.
Nimekuja hapa kujionea ama kujikumbusha mahali nilipigiwa risasi. Najua hii mchanga yetu ya Kenya imekunywa damu yangu. Inaweza kuwa tu ni damu yangu ya mwisho yenye imekunywa. Na feel tu mimi ni hero hata kama nilipigiwa risasi hapa.
He stands in silence staring at the spot where hope turned to horror. What began as an eager march alongside fellow Kenyans, united in the call for better governance, became the start of a long, painful chapter he never imagined. Today, he lives with a bullet lodged deep within his body, a constant reminder of that day, and the pain, managed only through injections or a cocktail of pills, never lets him forget.
Iko hapa, ni kitu unaweza guza. Hata wewe hivi uguze usikie ni. Nasema hata unaguza tu hivi na kidole na unasikia. Iko tu kwa skin.
Kinyanjui vividly remembers the events of July 16th, 2024. He left home with a single mission: to raise his voice for a better Kenya. His destination, Githurai 45, where a charged crowd had gathered. Transport had ground to a halt along the busy Thika superhighway as protesters lit bonfires and chanted anti-government slogans. But they weren't alone. Police officers moved in, firing tear gas and live bullets to break up the crowd. For Kinyanjui, what was meant to be a long day of protest ended barely an hour in. He was shot moments after stepping aside to take a phone call.
Nikasikia ni kama nimemwagiliwa maji hapa na bucket. Kuangalia hivi, nikaona kishimo hapa kwa trouser, alafu damu inatoka na kishimo ingine kwa nyama sasa, kwa paja.
That's the last thing he remembers. He collapsed, only to wake up at the Kenyatta National Hospital, his new home for the next 50 days. During that time, more than 100 other protesters were admitted, all bearing the scars of the same violent crackdown. For Kinyanjui, the news was devastating. The bullet lodged inside him could not be removed.
Ya for one walisema kuitoa inaweza kuwa riski kuliko ibaki. And then wakasema ni unremovable, haiwezi toka. Hiyo risasi venye iligonga mfupa ati ilipasuka mara 3, wakatoa segments 2, sasa hiyo ni moja ilibaki.
As for Kinyanjui's neighbor, Rogers Mwabe, he carries the dark memories of June 25th, 2024. What began as a simple walk home from his workplace in Kahawa Sukari around 5 p.m. marked the start of a painful journey he never saw coming.
Tukaona wakitoka Sukari na magari za maskari. So tukafu nikimbie kutoka pale nitoroke hapa nenda hapa jini. So hapa nikatoka kutoka highway kufuka hapa. Wakati nafika hapa ndio nitoroka kwenda pale. Ndio nikapigwa risasi, nikipigwa risasi hapa kuinuka nikashinda kutembea hapo sasa.
Coincidentally, it was at this very spot that 16-year-old Winfrey Wairimu, a Form 3 student, was shot in the stomach. When we last met her mother at Kenyatta National Hospital, Winfrey was fighting for her life. Today, the family shares brighter news. She has fully recovered and is preparing to sit her Form 4 exams later this year.
Sijawahi rejea hapa sababu nikifika hapa huwa nakuwa na mawazo mingi sana, so hapa mimi sasa kuja hapa tena.
Mwabe was rushed to 2 facilities before finally being referred to Kenyatta National Hospital.
Sasa nasikianga uchungu hapa.
Given the extent of his injuries, doctors were left with no choice. His leg had to be amputated to save his life.
Ile kitu inaniuma sana, nichoa kupiga risasi na bado ukienda kwa EPO wanakuambia bado tunaendelea na uchunguzi. Sasa unazinda uchunguzi gani unaendelea? Mtu umempesa pigwa risasi.
The bullets didn't just wound their bodies, they shattered their lives. leaving deep psychological and social scars that may never fully heal.
Imehappen sasa bibi yangu ako 5 months pregnant. So I'm in the hospital, hata amezaa tu nikiwa tu in this condition. Hata ilibidi aende kwa nyumbani, arudi kwa nyumbani. Got born to give birth to a boy, though hata sijai muona because I'm not having anything, any help. I can't offer her any help, so I had to withdraw.
Kazi yangu kama ilikuwa kazi kama hii ya roof sasa hii. Unaanza kupanda roofs juu, kufanya kazi ya jua kali, magrinder machines. Sasa mimi hiyo kazi siwezi kufanya kabisa. Hiyo kazi siwezi kufanya kwa sababu huwezi enda juu ya roof na mguu mmoja.
Thanks to the support of well-wishers, Mwabe received a prosthetic leg and now earns a living as an Uber driver. A job that helps him provide for his young family. Kinyanjui, on the other hand, lives with a friend and depends entirely on the kindness of others to afford his daily medication. Together with other survivors, they've formed a support group where sharing their experiences has become a vital part of the healing process.
Ni kama tulifanya tu kazi ya bure na tukaluzu watu wengi, hata hakuna kitu ilifanyika na hiyo story kaisha hivyo tu.
If it's possible, hata hii bullet ikitolewa ionekane hizo sili, I would like to face the officer and then maybe like to hear from him why he made such a hasty decision of attacking a harmless person.
Despite living with bullets inside their bodies, having to depend on medication on a regular basis, and some having to live without their limbs, the victims of the June 2024 protest say their tribulations is a reminder of the struggle for good governance. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Githurai 45, Kiambu County.
There's a pain that no parent should ever know, the unbearable grief of burying a child. For many Kenyan families, that pain became a harsh reality during the Gen Z protest that swept Nairobi last year. Erickson Chalo and David Chege's mothers know this pain too well. For a year, they have carried the burden of losing sons shot dead in broad daylight outside Parliament on June 25th. As Mashirima Kapombe now reports, this is a story of heartbreak, resilience, and a desperate search for justice in the shadow of a nation's darkest days.
The road to Erickson Chalo Mutisia's home is a reflection of where many Kenyan dreams are born. Communities of humble beginnings where hope runs deep. These neighborhoods shape the youth, sending them off to cities with hearts full of ambition and the promise of a better tomorrow. But for some, like those who took to the streets on June 25th, those dreams were tragically cut short, silenced in the very cities they longed to thrive in as they fought to be seen and heard.
I know you like me, I know you feel me, so let me put that ring on your finger.
Erickson, a 26-year-old young man from Machakos, a dancer, baker, and butcher. Kenyans came to know his name on the day he died, killed by a gunshot outside Parliament on June 25th. His mother, Caroline, had seen him just hours before. She had travelled from Machakos to Marikiti Market, as she did every week, to buy vegetables for her stall. On her way, she stopped as always at the house Eric shared with his younger brother.
Kaniambia mamu, leo uingie soko. Kaa hapo, saa 6 ikifika urudi nyumbani. Nikamsindikia mpaka Shooters. Unajua Shooters Utawala. Ndio nilienda akaingia metro, nikamwambia bye, kaniambia mamu nitakupigia simu saa 6. Mimi nikarudi. Nikalala.
When she woke up, she decided to go home to Machakos. As she walked to the stage, pandemonium, a group of police officers lobbing tear gas. Scattered groups of young people lingered in the smoke, eyes fixed on the police. And then a thought crossed her mind. A mother's instinct, a sudden wave of worry she couldn't shake.
Napona Eric aliniambia ananipigia simu saa 6. Aja nipigia simu.
With no matatus to Machakos in sight, she accepted the lift from a kind man and his wife. Strangers who, in a cruel twist of fate, became her comforters the moment she received the devastating news.
Mbona kuna simu ya Eric? Ulipata wapi hiyo simu ya Eric na hiyo huyu sio Eric? Akaniambia, "Mom, ngoja nitakwambia tu." Akaniambia kwanza zima simu, nakimbia. Nikamuuliza kwani umemuibia simu? Akaniambia hapana, hakuiba simu. Nikapiga tena hiyo simu. Kwanza huyo kijana nikaa alikuwa amechachoka. Akaniambia Eric ashafika binguni.
She couldn't believe it. Her husband tried to calm her, saying he'd just spoken to their second born. But he too was struggling. A matatu driver who had received the same call, breaking the news. Shattered, he abandoned his vehicle and passengers. A friend found him, met Caroline along the way, and together they made the heartbreaking journey home.
Tukaingia hapa nikamwambia njoo nilikuwa na Eric saa 4:30. Nataka mniambie nguo zenye alikuwa amevaa na mnionyeshe kila kitu. Nikamwambia huyu sio Eric. Tuliangana akiwa amevaa jeans ya black na sleeveless ya green. Ile ya white iko ndani sasa pale kwa picha. Kumbe alienda kwa butcher akavaa hii afro ya white.
Eric was buried 2 weeks later, following a post-mortem that revealed he had suffered a gunshot wound to the chest and another that had grazed his chin. A month later, they filed a complaint with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. Kilometers away in Kiambu County, a cloud of sadness hangs over Jane Duta, the mother of David Chege. Her eyes speak of a pain too deep for words. It's a look she has carried for a year since that fateful Tuesday when her son was shot in the head and killed outside Parliament. Her last call to him that afternoon went unanswered, but when another relative dialed, someone picked up.
Alipompigia yule mmoja kuchukua akamwambia mwenye hii simu amepigwa risasi na amekufa. Naona. Kumbe sasa ile nilipiga simu. Yule mtu aliona simu imeseviwa mama. Akajua hata break the news.
A software developer and Sunday school teacher, David would give his all for others. Retracing his final hours, Chege spent the morning cleaning a local church, did odd jobs and shared mandazi from a neighbor. Simple moments before tragedy struck.
Sasa alikuwa anamrudishia sahani. Alipomrudishia sahani akamwambia naenda ku reject. Huyo jirani akamjaribu, wacha Chege, wacha kwenda. Si uone tu hapa kwa TV, akamwambia hapana, lazima nitaenda.
Jane and Caroline have tried to seek justice for their sons' deaths, but it has been elusive.
Kuna siku walituambia tukuje na witness. Mimi nikawaambia witness yangu ni Mungu na risasi. Sikukuwa hapo Eric akikufa. Unaniambia nikuje na witness nifanye nini sasa?
Not even the apology by President William Ruto at the recent National Prayer Breakfast was enough to pacify their pain.
Sasa wakati ule ameambiwa na mhubiri aombe msamaha, ndio anaomba. Hiyo ni kumaanisha ikuwa imetoka kwa moyo wake, ni kama kulazimishwa. And if you can recall his speech, alisema if kama.
For Erickson's mother, a BBC documentary points at a man calling for someone to be shot. Seconds later, a young man in a white overall was lying on the ground, dead. That man was Erickson Mutisia.
John Kaboi. Unajua tulimuona kwa BBC. Kwanza nilikuwa naomba serikali imshike, imtafute, imshike mahali yako, na huyo askari mwingine alishuti Eric na David Chege.
For Caroline and Jane, the system has failed them. But when asked what justice means to them, their answer was clear, without a moment's hesitation.
Washike hao watu, hata ikiwa ni kuuliwa nao wauliwe, nao wazazi wao wasikie vile tunasikia.
Nitaridhika, sitaki compensation, lakini wakuuawa nitakuja nikae kwa nyumba nikiwa nimetulia. Tuwazike kama venye tulizika watoto wetu.
The families of those who lost their loved ones on June 25th carry their pain with a silent resolve and an unwavering determination that although their kin remain buried in the ground, their quest for justice is still alive 1 year down the line. Mashirima Kapombe, Citizen TV, Machakos.
And on that heartbreaking note, let's take a quick break here on Monday Report. We're back with much more in just a short while. Thank you for staying with the Monday Report live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where later on we'll have a conversation on the Public Service Superannuation Fund, that is PSSF. We'll tell you all about it in just a bit. But before continue, there's a statement here that has been sent into the newsrooms by Honorable Aidan Duale, that is the Cabinet Secretary for Health. He says that SHA 2.75% contribution then remains in effect as per the current legal framework. He further says that the ministry acknowledges the High Court decision in the petition delivered by Justice Mwita on June 13, 2025. He says that the petition challenges the transition of data from the National Health Insurance Fund, that is NHIF, to SHA, as well as the statutory 2.75% contribution to the Social Health Insurance Fund, which is SHIF. But he says that the court also recognizes that the core issues raised in that petition are already under active consideration by the Court of Appeal, and declined to issue any orders and struck out the petition. He says that we wish to reassure all Kenyans there that the institutional partners that the 2.75% contribution remains largely in force and is now recognized as tax deductible under the Tax Laws Amendment Act 2024. SHA continues to operate within the legal framework provided by the Universal Health Coverage laws, and he also says that they remain committed to a transparent, rights-based and citizen-centered transition from NHIF to SHA system. Data protection and also continuity of the service remain top priorities throughout the process. That is a statement coming through from Honorable Aidan Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, after we reported earlier on that the SHA 2.75% had been struck off by the High Court in Milimani today. Let's talk about politics now. And DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua is now linking his fallout with President William Ruto to what he termed as the state's heavy-handed response to the Gen Z protests that rocked the country last year. Speaking during a meeting with leaders from the Narok and Kajiado counties, Gachagua said that the official launch of his DCP party will take place in July. Ayub Abdikadir has more.
While attributing the delay in the launch of his party to frustration by state agencies, Gachagua said the leadership of the party will decide on which between the counties of Narok and Kajiado will host the party's launch.
Sherehe ni yenu, mukaribishe wageni na mulinde mkuta. Hao viongozi sasa nilitaka kuomba, mumekubali na nimeshukuru. Tutafanya nafikiri tariki 7 mwezi huu wa Julai.
Recalling the Gen Z protests of June last year, Gachagua said the youth have a right to express their opinion on issues of national importance.
They have a right to be heard, and I disagree with what William Ruto has done. Sasa kutoka hapo sasa kikaumana kati ya mimi na yeye. Sasa tutakuwa tuongei, tunaongea na message. Akitaka kuniambia kitu na mimi namjibu.
And ahead of the planned commemorative march by families of the Gen Z protest victims, Gachagua's allies called for police protection of the protesters.
Inspector General of Police, your first job is to protect life and people. Tunangoja tarehe 25. Vijana wakikosa haki yao, ama mfanye vile mliwafanyia last year, Kenya haitaendelea vile mnataka. Lazima tufuate sheria.
Sisi tukishirikiana pamoja, I think hakuna kitu hatuwezi tatua ama shinda ya watu wetu hatuwezi tatua.
He met leaders from the Maa community at his Wamunyoro home in Nyeri County. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
Now, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki yet again continued to woo Kambani region, holding a meeting with over 100 MCAs from the counties of Machakos, Makueni and Kitui. The Deputy President hit out at opposition leaders over what he terms advancing tribal politics. Francis Talaki has the details.
At a meeting with MCAs from Ukambani, Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki once again urged Kalonzo Musyoka to ditch the opposition and join government.
We are saying, instead of making politics stand between the people and full access to the benefits of the government of the day, let's put politics aside. Let's make sure, irrespective of how people voted, they have full access.
Kindiki, who met 104 MCAs from the Machakos, Makueni and Kitui counties, told the MCAs to rally behind the Kenya Kwanza government.
They will not tell you their interest today is who will be elected as president in 2027, or as governor, or as MP, they will tell you their interest is the people they voted for will give them roads, water, electricity, and they don't care how.
The DP has in recent days continued to push to have Ukambani region join the government by wooing Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka out of the opposition bracket.
Friday niko Ukambani, Saturday niko Ukambani, Sunday niko Ukambani, Monday niko Ukambani. Fire si fire. Mama si mama.
Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV.
And away from politics, Abigail Wanjiku, whose killing sparked protests in Mwiki, died due to blunt force trauma to the head. A post-mortem examination revealed that she was also strangled and raped. Autopsy conducted on the body of 18-year-old Joshua Stevens showed that he died of a single gunshot to the head. The families of the victims, accompanied by human rights activists, are now demanding justice.
We found just one single gunshot injury that traversed the right side of the brain, the skull, the brain, to exit at the back of the head. We did not find the bullet.
Ile swali mimi nauliza kwa sababu hata DCI alituambia wakati tulifika hapa mochari, wakati tulienda pale kuongea akasema mwenye buduki yenye iliua Joshua wako naye, lakini mwenye buduki bado. Sasa kama familia tunataka huyo mwenye buduki, huyo askari alishuti Joshua, tusikie ameshikwa.
The burial of this boy who is lying here will not happen until we are satisfied that the culprits have been arrested and arraigned in a court of law.
The Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, that's KESHA, says it will defy court orders stopping school levies. School heads argue that for schools to remain operational, they have no option but to ask parents to chip in as government funding has remained unsustainable. Speaking in Mombasa ahead of this year's KESHA National Conference, KESHA chairperson Willie Kuria said that the current funding model has remained unchanged for over a decade and no longer sustainable. Kuria blamed the crisis in schools to delays in disbursement of capitation funds by the government.
The fees that is there currently of 40,000 in body schools, county and sub-county and extra county, and 53 in national schools, it cannot work. It will not work. It was set in 2015, 10 years ago. Nobody can tell us that one will work. There is a 46% inflation in those 10 years. How will it be that, for example, a packet of papers, printing papers, was costing 400. Now it is 800. How do you tell us that we can operate with that amount of money? It can't work.
We know today over 90% of our learning institutions are still cutting firewood to cook. They are using fossil fuels like generators for their lighting. And we have a program that we come with called the Clean Energy Transition in our schools, where we are supporting schools to solarize. We want to eliminate fire from schools by introducing LPG as a transition fuel, steam cooking, biogas, and also electricity cooking that is powered by solar.
Well, on that note, let's take another quick break on Monday Report live from the KICC here at the Nairobi CBD. We're back with much more. And welcome back to the Monday Report. Time now for some business news. And Kenya's trade with Japan has grown significantly, yet concerns over widening imbalance have prompted high-level discussions. In 2024, Kenya imported goods worth $816 million from Japan, primarily vehicles and heavy machinery, while its exports, mainly tea, cut flowers and agriculture products, totaled only $69.2 million, resulting in a trade deficit exceeding $747 million. It's this deficit that the government of Kenya is seeking to bridge at the Osaka Expo 2025. Miriam Nyambura reports from Osaka in Japan.
Japan,
a global industrial powerhouse with established supply chains, has a low market uptake of Kenyan products.
Geographical location is hard.
This disparity was the focal point at the Kenya-Japan Business Forum, held at the Osaka International Convention Center in Osaka, Japan. Cabinet Secretary for Trade and Investment says there is need for Kenya to diversify its export base by adding value to agricultural products.
The trade balance has consistently been in favor of Japan, with the current ratio at about 1:13 due to the high level of imports compared to exports from Kenya.
Key challenges include the marketing of Kenyan products through branding, the absence of direct flights, and limited digital trade platforms.
Trade balance is highly depending on the free activity of the business community, business activity. We will provide a great opportunity in conjunction with TICAD 9 conference this year in Yokohama.
The Japan-Africa Public-Private Economic Forum. This forum, which aims to promote cooperation between Japanese and African private sector companies in various fields such as trade, investment, infrastructure, and energy, as well as to facilitate business activities of Japanese companies in Africa.
The 2025 Kenya-Japan Business Forum aims to deepen cooperation between both countries. This on the sidelines of Kenya's participation in Expo 2025 Osaka, where 161 countries are showcasing their culture and technological advancements.
Special economic zones, which the government has designated, and which is our key selling point as a ministry and as the government of Kenya, so that we can be able to attract part of the manufacturers who are here for their African and maybe the Gulf market to be able to do it off Dongo Kundu or Naivasha, and then we can be able to distribute it across the continent.
Despite the trade imbalance, the Kenya-Japan relationship is evolving. The number of Japanese companies operating in Kenya has increased from 25 in 2012 to 120 today. Focus now shifts to addressing challenges and strengthening the presence of Kenyan goods in one of Asia's most lucrative markets. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV, Osaka, Japan.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development has listed the 77 pesticide products withdrawn from the market and introduced stringent new regulatory controls on hundreds more. The move is aimed at safeguarding public health and aligning Kenya's agriculture sector with international safety standards. The decision follows a year-long review by the Pest Control Products Board, which assessed 430 end-use pesticide products using scientific data from manufacturers and regulators in other jurisdictions as well. Jimmy Mbogo has more.
The government has identified several active ingredients and products that pose unacceptable risks to human health, crops, livestock and the environment, leading to the immediate withdrawal of 77 products. Another 202 products will be restricted only to be used on specific crops, while an additional 151 products are under review and will remain banned from importation and use until a final decision is reached by the end of the year. To further enhance compliance, the ministry has finalized a draft pest control product bill, which has already been approved by the cabinet and is set to go before parliament. The proposed legislation enhances regulatory oversight, bans pest control products outlawed under international environmental agreements, and prohibits the use of products not registered in their country of origin. Among the items banned include 45 pesticides, which have seen the withdrawal of 8 more from the market. Others include 27 insecticides, 6 fungicides and 6 herbicides, with the remainder comprising fumigants, rodenticides and hazardous co-fumulants.
You can expect those determined to produce the pesticides that you don't want to fight back. And they will fight back as severe guerrillas. So let's not kid ourselves. Let's not bury our head into the ground like the proverbial ostriches.
Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, PesaLink and the FinTech Alliance have signed a new partnership aimed at accelerating inclusive digital payments in Kenya. The agreement, formalized through a memorandum of understanding, is expected to strengthen collaboration between banks and fintechs by easing integration, promoting account-to-account transfers, and supporting a more interoperable payment system. Now, despite the country's advanced payments landscape, only 27 fintechs are currently integrated with PesaLink. The new partnership seeks to expand that number significantly through joint working groups, industry awareness campaigns, and alignment on security and operational standards. The Fintech Alliance says that the initiative is designed to unify the ecosystem under a shared platform that makes digital transactions faster, more affordable, and more accessible.
Ensure that people, organizations, startups, SACCOs, the whole financial services ecosystem converges around this platform that is making things easier to be able to ensure that we serve the end customer easier, faster, with as little friction as possible. So
we believe that with everything that we have today to be able to available to us in the Kenyan payment space, there is a lot more benefit that will come out of it if we can break down the barriers and enable people to transact with anyone, everywhere, at any time. And what that then should lead to is a reduction in the cost of payments in the country. When entities do not have to rebuild the wheel, they don't have to build their own ecosystem, and they can leverage the ecosystems of another entity.
Kenya's e-mobility is projected to grow by 5% by the year 2030 as the country looks to ditch use of fossil fuels and embrace clean energy as one of the ways to fight climate change. Now, it's this desire that has seen ventures like Rome Electric set base in Kenya and continuously provide solutions aimed at enhancing e-mobility. The latest is Rome's second-generation Rome Air motorcycles, an improvement to its first-generation bikes. Edward Choya visited Rome Electric and now tells us about these improvements.
Rome Electric, one of Kenya's electric vehicle makers, has made an upgrade to its first-generation Rome Air motorbikes, which it launched when it set foot in Kenya in 2017. The new second-generation Rome Air motorbikes have been designed with the input of the boda sector, which plays a crucial role in the transport industry in Kenya.
We decided this time round we are going to involve the end user, who are the boda riders. So we collected a lot of feedbacks, did a lot of trials based on their use case scenarios.
Joel Amboka is one of the boda riders who gave his input on the improvements needed for the second-generation Rome Air bikes.
Ile ya kwanza haikuwa na compatible lock ya batteries, ambapo battery yetu ilikuwa haiko safe. Tanki yake ilikuwa imewekwa, zile locks zake zilikuwa zimewekwa zenye hazikuwa zinapendeza.
With this in mind, Rome made the needed improvements to make its second-generation Rome Air bikes more efficient, appealing, and user-friendly.
We didn't have a lockable compartment for it. So that's one major improvement we did. We redesigned the bike to be able to support more load. Now the bike can carry 240 kg. We have made a total of 40 upgrades in the bike.
Kwa sahi yenye imekuja sahi, betri yake inakuja na lock. Kwa hivyo utakuwa unajilokea betri yako, haina wasiwasi. Tangi ya sahi imewekwa vizuri na inavutia.
Lukaya says, despite the changes to the second-generation bikes, their pricing has remained the same, and now they look forward to sourcing all the required raw materials locally to cut production costs and give value to their customers.
This was a very good opportunity for us to build the local capacity, and by building the local supply chain, we are able to maintain the cost of the bike.
The second-generation bikes come with 2 batteries and a charger for each, and now riders can charge them either at the comfort of their homes or swap the batteries at various charging stations in Nairobi.
Currently, we have 15 stations in Nairobi that offer 24-hour services for charging. The bike can cover between 100 and 120 kilometer range.
Lukaya says Rome looks forward to putting more electric bikes into the Kenyan market with plans to increase their production capacity.
Currently, we are doing 20 bikes a day. We are building up a supply chain to be able to get to a point where we can do 80 bikes a day with 2 shifts. We are looking at expanding within our regions, scaling up operations, and opening multiple locations within Africa.
The border sector is one of the key pillars of the transport industry in Kenya. Now, with the country looking to move into e-mobility, Rome Electric is playing a pivotal role in making sure that this sector fully embraces electric mobility. Edward Chwea, Made in Kenya, Citizen TV.